We're back for another video for today, and sometimes it's good to do a double checking on your settings to make sure that the devil's not in there and trying to discourage and irritate and frustrate a lot of things. So yeah, y'all can see me a lot better now that I've got it refixed back again. Ha, not today, Satan, not today. So today's scripture is going to be from Matthew, and I was going to do another video yesterday, and I had some things that I needed to work through, and it kind of sucked me down into a grieving session. So I kind of worked through that, and it's kind of a good thing because it fits in with the scripture reading this morning. And I'll read it at some point during the session, during this video, just simply because I have those that like to skip through my video, and they pick and choose, and anyway, we're gonna let God take care of them. But I do want to say that whenever I'm sharing my struggles and my experiences, I am not a counselor, I'm not a life coach, I am not somebody that thinks I know everything. I am someone that I am just sharing my experience and how I walk through and through my view of walking through struggles and situations. Everybody's is different. Everybody's experiences are different, and what works for one person may not work for another person, which is why I see a lot of value in us sharing our individual stories and how we overcame them and how God worked through us to overcome them, because like each one of us are individual and one of a kind. Our stories and how we walk through them are individual and one of a kind. And I know excuse me, I know in several videos I have mentioned codependency, so I'm going to touch on that today. I don't really want to, because it pulls up situations and pulls up other people. But I have learned that you can't people please to the point to where you won't ever be a villain. You're gonna be a villain in somebody's story. It doesn't matter how good you are to them. You're gonna be their villain, and you're gonna be their scapegoat that they're gonna use to not focus on whatever issue they have going on, and pulling all the yes people in and to make them feel good so that way they don't have to focus internally. As I have said, I'm married, divorced twice, and with both marriages, the first marriage, I ended up going into therapy with a psychiatrist because of a situation that happened shortly after the birth of my first child. And I went, and I had several sessions, and one of the last few sessions, my psychiatrist told me that he wanted my husband to come in and to participate in some of the sessions. Well, I mentioned it to my husband, and my husband, being the type of person that he is, he refused a couple of times, and he finally broke down, and he finally went with me. And while we were in the session, the psychiatrist said that he wanted to have several sessions with me and my husband together. And whenever that psychiatrist said that in my session with him in there, my husband, bright red, flushed, immediately said that there would be no sessions with him and me together, that he did not have the problem, that I had the problem, and that she would not be coming back to any more sessions. So that was my last session with the psychiatrist, even though I was working on me and making me, working through my issues and helping me become a better person. It wasn't until the environment and the other person in my immediate environment was brought in that all of a sudden I'm the problem. He doesn't have the problem, and it's going to stop. So I didn't go back. I had to deal with the marriage, and I had to deal with the environment. And again, I shared in previous videos that I had two very overbearing and dominating women in my life in that first marriage. One of them was the reason why I was in counseling and the psychiatrist. The second marriage, we went through that one for a while. I was married in 96 to the second one, and it wasn't until 2006 and 2 children later that I hit a really hard downward spiral, to the point to where I just didn't want to. I was ready to go home. I was tired of life, and I reached back out again. It just so happened that I went into pastoral care and counseling. So I went into a counseling session then. And I went by myself because I was working on me. I was taking care of me. And we went through several of those sessions. And again, they wanted my husband to come in. So I came in, suggested and told that a couple of times, and he finally agreed. And he actually did go to a couple of sessions, but refused to say anything because she was recording the sessions. And I'll never forget the first session that we went to. After we left, I caught hell. And him being in addiction, I caught hell on the way home. We was getting a divorce. So that one did not last long. Fast forward, he goes into recovery. He goes into rehab. The separation happens 2 weeks after he comes out of rehab. And that, a couple of months later, it starts in the divorce proceedings. So anyhow, go through the divorce. Daughter struggles. We have found Celebrate Recovery, so I'm going into recovery. I know that I have issues. I know that I have baggage. So I put the kids in because the whole situation between the separation had an effect on the kids. So I put them in counseling. And I went to counseling for to help as a parent because, life sucks. It's not easy. And whenever you have everybody else that sees you as a problem and you're an easy finger point, then you get to be the one that everybody dumps everything over, and you continue carrying everything. Well, during the counseling with the kids, it was kind of suggested, and I mentioned that whenever my daughter went into rehab in 2020, that I went into counseling. Well, I went into counseling. I already knew that I had codependency. And I had already went through a step study in 2016, 2017, but I had attempted it in either 2012 or 2013. And I hit step 4 where you have to look inwardly, and I wasn't ready. Was nowhere near ready to address that. And whenever you have somebody that's in addiction, they have to be the one that has to be ready. And if you see a tail go through, my cat's in here. He's sitting watch, but he kind of walks by every once in a while. But anyhow, they have to be the one that they have to make the decision. They have to want to better themselves You can't do it. That is part of being a codependent that I struggled with. And I'm going to read what, according to, there's a book, it's called Codependent No More by Melody Beattie, Beattie. I've got that book. You can't see it. Well, you sort of kind of can if I angle it just right. But I looked through it, and I worked through it a couple of times, and it helped a lot. But the codependency is a broad umbrella, but the definition that the book gave for it is a codependent person is one who has let another person's behavior affect him or her and who is obsessed with controlling that person's behavior. So if you are a loved one of a person that has addiction, you are codependent because you are trying your best to control that person's behavior and make them want to get better. That was me. And especially as a female, we have the caretaking. We have the caretaking should. There are some women that they could care less. But as women, we have the caretaking ingrained in us. And in Celebrate Recovery, they have a pamphlet that, and I'm gonna cover up the church's information, but they have a pamphlet, and it's probably online, if you Google it online, that it discusses the problem, and this is so applicable. The problem. On the surface, codependency sounds like Christian teaching. Codependents always put others first before taking care of themselves. Aren't Christians to put others first? Codependents give themselves away. Shouldn't Christians do the same? Codependents martyr themselves. Christianity honors its martyrs. And it goes into a list of the compliance patterns and the solution. I'm not going to read those for the second time, but in this book, The Codependent No More, chapter 4, I think it is, chapter 4, it lists the codependent characteristics. And I'm just going to list off the top of the top of them and just kind of briefly hold it up and show it to you. Caretaking is a whole page. Then you have low self-worth. Repression starts there. Then we have obsession, controlling, denial, dependency, poor communication, weak boundaries, lack of trust, anger, sex problems, and then it lists a lot of other miscellaneous ones there. But you see how many pages of descriptions, and not everything is cookie cutter exactly, but I had a lot of those, and some of them I still do, especially the lack of trust. And that goes into today's scripture reading in Matthew. In Matthew chapter 10, verses 16. Behold, I am sending you out as sheep in the midst of wolves, so be wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Beware of men, for they will deliver you over to courts and flog you in their synagogues. And you will be dragged before governors and kings for my sake, to bear witness before them and the Gentiles. When they deliver you over, do not be anxious how you are to speak or what you are to say, for what you are to say will be given to you in that hour. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you. Brother will deliver brother over to death, and the father his child, and children will rise against parents and have them put to death. And you will be hated by all for my name's sake, but the one who endures to the end will be saved. So if you grow up in a family that has codependency or has addictions or has any other type of dysfunction, I know I showed the brief little chart of the hurts, habits, and the hang-ups that Celebrate Recovery has. When you begin realizing that you have unhealthy patterns and you start making better choices and you start leaning in and getting better and not going along with the worldly, and you start following Jesus like the scriptures in Matthew, you make everybody uncomfortable. You become a sore thumb that sticks out in everything. You become a source of contention because others that are around you or in the family or in the workplace or in the church or wherever you're at, that the world's influence is continuing and you're pursuing God and you're working on you being better, and you step out of the denial of what you've been allowing in your life, and you start allowing Jesus to cover you with grace and to work on your issues and to correct them and to make better choices, you make everyone uncomfortable, and depending on the situations, you become a target. Because a lot of times they get comfortable in their chaos. They don't want to change. They like where they are because it's familiar, and they don't want to. And sometimes that puts you in a lonely position. I'm there now. I know I have pushed for my children to be back involved in church, but I have discovered that there is a religious spirit, there is a Jezebel spirit, there is a suffocation spirit that is in the churches, that whenever God is moving and God is doing new things, or he's bringing people into the congregation, that in order to grow them and to save them, or in order to save them and to start sanctifying and growing them and placing them and letting them use their gifts, we have these that they're comfortable in their chaos. They're comfortable in their rigid thinking. Where did that paper go? I had a paper in here. Oh, hold just a moment. While I was in counseling after 2020, from 2020 to 2022, while I was in counseling, my counselor gave me a paper, and I had heard triangulation, but I wasn't familiar with it until she showed me this, and it is a very, very good picture. So you have the persecutor, you have the rescuer, and then you have the victim down at the bottom. And what I'll do is I'll try to take a picture of this and I'll put it in the comments underneath the video so that way it can be seen better. But each one of those three positions, we can hop through each one. And whenever we start making better choices, we come out of the drama mode section of it, and we turn, it says coach, but we become more healthy. And whenever we step out of our drama corner and we start making better choices, and we put boundaries up, that causes a lot of dysregulation among the triangulation. And then that's where they start sucking other people in. And then you're stuck in the middle where they rotate everything all around you. And you become the monkey in the middle, or you become the target, the one in the middle, the bullseye, right in the middle. Everybody's trying to hit you. Just know that whenever you do make that decision, God sees you and God will honor you. He protects you. He's not gonna make you untouchable, because the weapons will form. They will form. It's a guarantee. In the world, we are going to be persecuted. We are sent out as sheep. We are sent out as sheep among the wolves. And you have some that they claim they're sheep. They claim they're Christians, but they're wolves in sheep's clothing. And not everybody that smiles at you has your best interest. So you have to lean into God, and you have to let God give you the direction. But anyway, that is today's video, and I'm going to shut this off before my phone decides to. I'm already at 21 minutes, so